Have you ever wondered why the person who miraculously fixes the server at midnight gets, a quiet little pat on the back, while the person who just took a weekend seminar gets a massive company-wide shout-out? Well, welcome back to The Explainer. I'm so thrilled you're here with us today. We are going to unpack the utterly fascinating and frankly completely relatable dynamics of workplace recognition. We're asking a question that literally echoes through the hallways of almost every company on Earth. Who actually gets valued in an organization? It's one of those underlying dynamics that can completely make or break a team spirit. By the end of our time together today, you're going to have a crystal clear lens on exactly how to view effort, potential, and reward in your own workplace. Let's dive right in.
Okay, so picture this. On one side, we have what we'll call the quiet contributor. You know the type, right? This is the person on their fourth cup of coffee, constantly solving problems, staying super late just to make sure a critical project actually crosses the finish line, and meticulously answering that endless stream of emails that keeps the corporate gears turning. Now, on the flip side, we have the applauded learner. This is the employee completing the shiny new training course, bringing in that freshly framed certificate, and getting the literal public applause from management during the big all-hands meeting. It's wild, because we're looking at two entirely different types of effort happening under the exact same roof, but yielding vastly different levels of appreciation.
So let's jump straight into Section 1, the quiet contributors, basically the engine of the organization.
Now, what's incredibly interesting here is how these seemingly standard, everyday tasks form the absolutely vital, yet almost entirely invisible backbone of a company. We're talking about answering emails, constantly putting out fires, meeting crazy tight deadlines, and just generally supporting colleagues. They are essentially the human shock absorbers for daily business friction. Think about that person who magically figures out how to fix the jammed copier at 4:55 p.m. on a Friday, right before a massive client pitch. Or the one who swoops in and averts a total reply-all disaster. None of these things usually come with a trophy, right? They definitely don't prompt a company-wide congratulatory memo. But every single day, these quiet contributors are working steadily behind the scenes. They're the absolute glue holding the whole shebang together.
But let's be real, the corporate world absolutely loves a shiny new achievement. And that brings us to Section 2, the praise of upskilling and celebrating knowledge and development. Now, don't get me wrong here. Expanding your knowledge is undeniably a massive deal. When an employee actually takes the initiative to complete a tough training course or secure a rigorous new qualification, that is a fantastic achievement. Staff development and further study are totally critical to the future-proofing of any business, especially in such a fast-paced world. Management absolutely should stand up and applaud this. Employees who go out of their way to improve their knowledge base, learn the tricky new software, or grasp emerging industry trends, they should always be encouraged and recognized. We desperately need that forward-looking energy.
But here's the catch. What happens when the scales tip way too far in one direction? That leads us right into Section 3, the cost of invisibility and what happens when daily effort goes totally unnoticed.
So we really have to stop and ask ourselves this question. What happens when an organization only values the new qualifications in the training, while completely overlooking the folks who consistently crush their daily responsibilities? Imagine being that hardworking employee we just talked about. You're sitting there in a town hall meeting, watching as awards are handed out and literal applause is given for a completed training module, while your late nights, your skipped lunches, and your relentless problem-solving receive absolute silence. Feeling that massive contrast, living in that gap between the applause for one person and the crickets for yourself, has profound, measurable effects on hardworking staff.
And honestly, it creates this predictable downward psychological spiral. It's like a domino effect. Let's walk through this because it happens almost universally in this exact order. First up, the employee starts feeling invisible. The heavy lifting they do goes completely unseen, so they, as a human being, feel unseen. Second, we immediately see declining motivation. I mean, why put in the extra hour on a random Tuesday evening if it fundamentally doesn't matter to leadership? Third, trust weakens. The employee no longer believes that the organization actually has their best interests or even a basic sense of fairness at heart. And finally, step 4, the ultimate tragedy for any successful business. The strong performer simply stops giving their best. They emotionally disconnect, and just like that, the engine loses its power. Okay, so how on earth do we fix this? Well, we need Section 4, balancing potential and value. Let's look at a truly fair organizational model. It all really comes down to clarifying what these two distinct actions actually represent within a business. Learning shows potential. It's basically telling the company what you might be incredibly capable of doing tomorrow. It's an investment.
But performance, the daily grind, hitting the deadlines, the meticulous problem solving, that shows the concrete value being delivered today. A truly fair, thriving organization understands that it desperately needs both. It relies on the bright promise of tomorrow's potential just as heavily as it relies on the flawless execution of today's value.
When you lay it all out, it's like a giant puzzle coming together. On one side, what employees study directly maps to that future potential we were just talking about. And on the other, what employees actively contribute maps directly to current, tangible, delivered value. When leadership embraces this entire picture, the solution is glaringly obvious. You don't have to choose between celebrating one or the other. By actively acknowledging both, the studying and the contributing, management creates an environment where the applauded learner and the quiet contributor can actually thrive side by side, knowing for sure that both forms of effort are seen and respected.
So, true workplace fairness really boils down to this one simple, powerful idea. Employees should be valued not only for what they study, but also for what they contribute. I know, it sounds so incredibly basic, right? Yet getting this balance wrong can completely derail an organization's absolute top performers and just drain the life out of an amazing team. To wrap up our explainer today, I'm going to leave you with this 3-part roadmap for a way healthier workplace. Recognize learning, reward effort, value contribution. So when you look around your own office tomorrow, ask yourself, is the quiet hum of a late-night email being valued just as much as the loud applause of a new certificate? And if it's not, what are you going to do to change that?